Hello, everyone. This is Cindy Maple. First of all, we'd like to welcome you to our webinar. We enjoy having these, and we enjoy you and your feedback. So our agenda for today is, in a minute, I'm going to turn this over to Ashley for her to cover our training schedule with you. I want to talk to you a little bit about our pilot program. We talked about this a little bit in our last webinar. I'm going to walk you through the work your way you want to with 2020 software session and show you some things that hopefully you'll learn some new things about our software. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we can connect with each other on the 2020 community. Just a reminder, the webinar is always recorded, and we'll make it available a few days from now. You'll be able to see that link on the community, and we will send an email with a link to the video to all of today's attendees. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to, I forget whether it's Ashley or Vanessa, who's going to cover the 2020 training schedule, the upcoming training schedule.
Thanks, Cindy. This is Ashley Stevenson, everyone, and this is our just a quick review of what's coming up for training. We have some two-day sessions, our in-person classroom training in January and February. We have a worksheet, CAP, and visual impression, 2 classes in Grand Rapids coming up in January. And then in February, we have worksheet followed by Giza and visual impression. So each of those are 2 days broken down as you see it on the screen there. And then our virtual classes are available as well. We have quite a few coming up in the next couple months. You can see here we've got classes for worksheet coming up, for CAP, visual impression, and Giza between December and January. And feel free to keep an eye on the calendar too. The website here is 2020spaces.com/training/commercial, and that's updated pretty frequently. You'll see some additional classes being added in the next couple of weeks here as well. So keep an eye out there if you're looking for training, whether it's in person or online. I hope to see you guys in class soon. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay, so I also wanted to remind everyone that 2020 now has a pilot program. The pilot program is basically a way for users to provide feedback on pre-release software. It's kind of, if you go in and sign up, you're actually signing up for our whole program. But as product manager, I would be looking for people at certain times to test our commercial software. So this gives you a great opportunity to spend some more time with 2020 solutions and get those early, so you know that benefits your business. This is a great opportunity for you to share your feedback with the 2020 team that's working on the project. You're basically the first to access and see new technology and features, and it really helps to have our customer base contribute and help shape the future of our 2020 solutions. So you can find us on the community, and I'll talk more about the community later. But this is a great way to get involved with us and to contribute to the software. Today I'm going to cover a little bit about the way our 2020 software is integrated. So we call this Work the Way You Want to with 2020 software. What I'm going to show you today is 2020 CAP. The same things and the same workflows work very well within Giza, but I wanted to explore some of the ways that you can work with the software that many people may not know about. So what do I mean by integrated? Integrated is combining or coordinating separate elements as to provide a harmonious, interrelated whole. One of the things that when I started working with design software, everything was very linear. You had to do things in a certain manner or a certain path. And there is a way that you can do that within our tools as well, and traditionally we've done that. But when we integrated visual impression, we wanted to give you the freedom to work the way you, your dealer work process or your project benefits from you working. So I'm going to go through several scenarios here to show you some of the different ways that you can use the software. The first way I'm going to show you is probably pretty familiar to you, and that's a very linear way where you create your floor plan in 2020 CAP or Giza, you create a takeoff in the 2020 worksheet, You apply your options there, and then you launch Visual Impression to complete your rendering and presentations. So let's just demonstrate how you can do that. I've put together a small drawing here. I wanted it to be big enough that you could see some key concepts, but yet small enough that it's very visible, the changes that we're making. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a worksheet. There's two types of worksheets that you can create. There's a visual worksheet, which is basically your standard takeoff, and then there's associated worksheet, which links the worksheet to your drawing. It doesn't really matter which one of those you use. Everything that I'm going to show you today will work either way. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the objects in my drawing and create a worksheet and have that worksheet come up for us. Okay, so here's kind of the standard way. I've created my drawing. I now have created my worksheet, and you can see that all the items are in here, but they don't have finishes on them. There are multiple ways that you can apply finishes in worksheet. For today's class, I'm going to just go into global options and globally select some options so that we can quickly get this the finishes specified. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a bright white bracket here. I'm going to pick a standard text style. I know from my drawing there are ways that you can organize and group this. I know from working with this drawing what I'm actually specifying here. So this is textile option on a chair, and I'm going to select the commuter cloth, and this is going to be slicker. I'm going to select a storm strap on my chair. The frame is going to be silver. The laminate exterior on my case is a bright white. The interior on my case is going to be yellow. Oh, by the way, this is Knoll product that I'm specifying here. I've got bright white legs. My outer back is going to be pebble. The paint finish is going to be, I believe this is a bright white as well. Pull finish is silver. My seat option, I'm going to go with a thin sheet foam. Oops. With a gray, dark gray shell. Go back here, I skipped this option here. Standard textile, sorry. The seat textile here I want to pick is a bistro chamomile. And then my textile is going to be commuter cloth again. Okay, and again that slicker color, and then I'm going to pick my veneer, and I'm going to pick a maple veneer, and matching veneer edge. Okay, so I've gone through and I've selected all of my finishes. So now if I click back on my worksheet, I can apply those finishes, and you can see that everything now has been selected. So just to review, I've gone from my drawing into my worksheet, applied all my options. Now I'm ready to do presentation drawings or rendering, so I load the visual impression at that point. So I'm going to go into scenes. I don't have my drawing broken up into scenes, so I'm going to choose the entire drawing, and it's going to load visual impression. Then when visual impression is loaded, you can see that everything now is specified in this drawing. Everything's ready to create presentation drawings from. So I can go ahead and render this in a little higher quality so that you can see all the lighting is set, all that kind of stuff. So that's a very linear way to do things, and that's the way that most of our users, I believe, are using visual impression today. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint here. Let me close this out. I'm going to close worksheet again. And let me go back to the PowerPoint. And I'm going to show you yet another way. One of the ways that you can do this too is instead of doing all your finishes in 2020 worksheet, you can actually launch visual impression immediately and use visual impression to apply all your finishes and options. This is really good because now then you can see everything visually as you're applying them. So I'm going to repeat myself here a bit. I'm going to go back to the visual, or go back to CAP. I'm going to create a worksheet file. I'm going to overwrite the one we had before. And I'm going to go ahead and let it create a file. Okay. So at this point, I don't have any options applied, but I can then go into Visualize, go to Scenes, Entire Design, and I can have it load visual impression from there. What you're going to see load here is that same scene, but it has no options, which is basically the way it is right now in Worksheet. So you can see none of the options in this scene have been applied. Just as a note, some manufacturers, like Knoll, for example, actually they show default presentation finishes where they're available. And what this means is that the manufacturer selects finishes to show visually before they're selected. So if I turn this on, you can see that those finishes are very different. If you download, just for example, I downloaded this from Knoll's website and they've already got their presentation finishes in there. But for this, and for most manufacturers, the presentation finishes may or may not be there. So I'm going to turn that off for now. Okay, so let's now look at using visual impression as a visual specifier. So I'm going to go ahead and select this chair, select materials, and just like it's presented to me in Worksheet in a text value, it's presented to me in visual impression, but it's more visual. So I'm going to say, okay, with the strap on the back of this chair, I want it to be storm. The outer back, I want to be pebble. And you can begin to see those options being applied to the chair as you select them. So I'm going to select a thin seat foam, standard textile. And then I can scroll through here and select the textile that I want to use, which is, oops, I passed it, I think, which is Bistro. I'm going to pick the chamomile. Then for the back, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to select commuter cloth again. These are the same selections that I made when we did it in Worksheet, so I'm going to select that again. The difference is you can, as I navigate the scene, you can see that I'm applying things as I select them. So it's very easy for me to see that, how my selections are going to look on the appropriate item. The other thing that I can do here is there's this tag here that says apply to more items. I can apply this. In this case, I'm going to apply it to all occurrences of the item because I have 4 different chairs. So I'm going to select that and apply. And you can see now all 4 of my chairs have been applied. Let's go on. Let's do the same thing on the table here. I'm going to select bright white for that finish. The leveler is also bright white. And then I'm going to apply this one to all occurrences of that item, or because I don't know, personally I don't know if this middle pole is the same part number as the others, so I will select any items accepting all the options. Because they're like items, those should apply. One thing I want to note here is this does vary by manufacturer, just the way the different manufacturers set up their data. Some you can apply in a broad brush manner, others you have to be a little more selective, but we give you 3 different choices here to apply items. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to select the overhead bin. That's a bright white, and then I want the background in there to be canary yellow. And then I'm going to, because I know, pick the brackets. I'm going to pick a silver bracket. And because I know that these happen to be 2 different sizes, again, I'm going to say items accepting all the options above because they're not the exact same part number. So I'm going to apply that, and that will appear there. Select the door. I'm going to again pick that maple finish for the door. and I'm going to pick a silver pool, and I'm going to apply that to all the finishes too. So as you can see, that gets applied all the way around. Go to the tabletop, select the veneer. Again, I'm going to select a maple, and I'm going to apply that to all the finishes. If you notice here, it applied to sort of the like desktops. This table has a little bit different a different option group, so it doesn't apply to the table. But I'm going to go over here and go ahead and select the same finish for that table. So again, I'm going to pick maple. And here I'm going to pick a bright white base. And then I'm going to select the chairs and finish selecting those. Let's see, we got another bright white. Again, I'm going to apply to as many items as I can. And then I have one last chair here where I'm going to make this a silver frame chair. The shell I want to be dark gray, and I want to put that same commuter cloth on the chair in the slicker fabric. Okay? So very quickly you can see that I was able to do all the same optioning that I did through global options, but I did these in visual impression. What I can do at this point is apply these back. So when I select here, whatever application I've launched the visual impression from, when I hit apply, it saves back to that application. So in this case, I launched from worksheet. When I hit apply, it will save all those finishes back to worksheet. So at this point, just so I can illustrate that to you, I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. And as you can see, all of those finishes are now in worksheet and fully applied. Okay. I'm going to pause here for just a minute and just ask the panelists, are there any questions coming up that you need me to address at this point?
I think we're looking pretty good. There were a few questions just about opening scenes and looking at, selecting certain items, but we've been able to answer them all. So if you guys have any questions, don't forget to pop them in the Q&A panel, and we'll try to answer them as we go.
Okay. Okay, good. So hopefully hopefully you're beginning to see or beginning to think of and see some different opportunities for yourself when using visual impression. So let me go ahead and close this again. I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here. And the next thing I want to talk about is scenarios. So I know when I worked as a designer years ago, it wasn't enough to give a customer one option. You often had to give them different options, maybe color schemes or product types or things like that. Well, in the case of color schemes, visual impression can really help you out because we can set you up to create different scenarios and also be able to quickly apply those scenarios. So I'm going to go back now to my drawing, and we're going to kind of go through that same process that we just, well, with a slight difference. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take worksheet out of the equation. I'm maybe early in my process, and I just want to play with some ideas. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to launch visual impression directly out of CAP. So I'm going to visualize scenes. And it's going to do pretty much the same thing as it did when I launched it out of worksheet. It's going to bring all those items over into VI, and they're not going to have finishes on them. So here's another way that you can do things. So a lot of times I just want to, play with some ideas or whatever. So I might put something in a drawing, launch it into VI, and then be able to play with some finishes. So I'm quickly going to go through that same process that we just did to visually specify items. And I'm going to pick the same finishes in the interest of time. So I'm going to pick the storm strap, pebble back, thin sheet foam, standard textile. Scroll down here to my bistro fabric, select chamomile, see that apply. Now it's asking me for the inner back textile. I'm going to go up here to commuter cloth, select that, and I'm going to select the slicker color again, This is really handy because then you can see all of the finishes as you're selecting them. So again, I'm going to apply this to more items. I want it to apply to all the same chairs, so I'll put that in. I'm going to select the maple tops for all the desks, and I'm going to choose, make a different selection here so that it applies to everything. Let's do the bright white table and bright white textured legs. I'm going to apply that to as many things as I can. Come up here to the cabinet. Again, we've got bright white. The inside of the cabinet to be canary yellow. I want a silver bracket, and I'm going to apply that to as many things as I can. Select the door. I'm going to pick a maple door again, and a silver pull, and apply that. Select the table. Select the maple table here with a bright white bottom. And then I'm going to do this last chair with a silver frame, a dark gray, and let me find my commuter cloth again, and the yellow slicker color for the seat. I think I don't remember if I did these posts, so I'm going to look at that again, and it looks like those are done, so I'll make sure that we have those. Okay, so we've really quickly optioned out all of our items using visual impression. So at this point, you know, I kind of like this, but, you know, I like yellow. I'm not sure my customer's going to like yellow. So what I'm going to do is instead of, well, there's a couple of things I can do. One is if I'm sure that this is what I want in my drawing, I can apply it back to my drawing. In this particular case, I'm thinking to myself, you know, I like this, but, you know, I'm not really sure, given the application, that the customer may like this. So what I want to be able to do is I just want to save a copy of it. And what Save a Copy does is it creates another worksheet with these finishes applied. So I'm going to save that copy, and just for kicks, I'm going to just call it, so we can recognize that I'm going to say yellow. Okay, and it saved a copy. Now I'm thinking, you know, this, you know, maybe is a little more traditional. I'm gonna change some of these colors around and create a different application. So I can go back here and I can quickly I can select the chair, and if I go to summary, it will tell me all the finishes here that I have selected for my chair. So let's say, okay, this is all yellow. Maybe I'm going to do a red color scheme. So I can go back here and I can select chamomile, and it takes me right back to where I was specifying, and it lets me pick another bistro fabric. So in this case, I'm going to pick red. And for the seat back, I still like that commuter cloth, so I'm going to pick that. First I have to find it. There we go, commuter cloth. And there's a balloon red in here, and so the rest of the finishes I'm okay with, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that. So now the yellow overheads don't look so well, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the same process. I'll select the canary yellow. That takes me back to the colorways that I'm allowed for that particular item, and I'm going to select the dark red there. Everything else is fine, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that so it applies all the way around the seam. And I'm thinking maybe I want a darker type of worktop. So I'm going to go in here. Again, it will select the same price and colorway, and then I can apply that. Same thing I need to add to the doors. Let's see, what did I do here? I selected a different finish. Let me go back here. I need this one. Select that. And silver pool still and apply. So I've got both sides now in that colorway. I want to select the table and change it. And again, I'm just going back and reselecting those options. And the chair's fine. I'm going to change the yellow seat to the red balloon color seat and apply that. And now if I go into an HQ view of this, you can see that now I've created a completely different scene and a different colorway for my customer, different option. Okay, you brighten it up so you can see it a little better. Okay, so in this case, I think maybe my customer might prefer this better than the yellow. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to save a copy of this, just like we did the yellow option. I'm going to save this as a red option, which saves it, and it basically creates a duplicate worksheet in red. But I'm also going to apply it, and that's going to apply it. Remember, apply goes back to your host application. So in this case, I launched out of the drawing, and so it's actually going to apply the finishes back in the drawing. Now, with all of these, you don't have to do these. I'm trying to illustrate different options that you have. So let's go back and look and see what this does for us in our drawing. So now, if I go back to my drawing and I look at, let me do a cap info on one of the chairs, you can see that the colors, it's a bistro cinnamon and the commuter cloth balloon. So this has the red, the red finishes applied. So if I were to run a bill of materials at this point, all my options would come over automatically. One of the nice things about doing using this kind of scenario type planning and creating multiple worksheets is we also have a way that I can take those finishes and reapply them back to my drawing really quickly. So if you go to under visual impression, we have this update against a visual worksheet. So basically, the drawing will recognize any worksheet that has been created from itself or replicated from itself. So basically, we create a bill of materials when we go into visual impression, and then I've created 2 copies of that visual material. So let's say we go out to our client and they say, well, that red's nice, it's not exactly what we want, and you as a designer say, well, you know what, I really like this yellow color. I can really quickly update against worksheet. I can select my yellow option worksheet, open that, and by running it, that now applies all the yellow into my drawing. So if you look here, now it's Bistro Chamomile and Commuter Cloth Slicker. So if I were now to launch visual impression out of here, you'll see that all of my options are already there, and the scene that we're going to see will be finished in yellow. Okay, so this is really handy to do, and you can save a lot of work by setting some of these up before you talk to your customer or before you hand this over to your designer. I'm going to pause just a minute. To the panelists, are there any questions that I can address at this point?
Okay. Sorry, we are firing away, trying to keep up with all the questions. There was a question, I think you can answer this pretty quickly, it was where you found the ceiling. I think you've got a grid ceiling or a tile ceiling.
Oh, in the ceiling, yeah, in the ceiling, if you go into materials, we have textures now in the materials, and we have different tile-based textures. There's a 2x2 grid, a suspended 2x2, and a suspended 2x4. There's also a tiled 16x16. Has anybody used the visual impression in this way before? I'll ask a question. we'll follow up on that later. But I'd be interested to know if you have, it'd be interesting to type that into the panelists. Okay, so I'm going to go back to talk about just a couple of other things here in our PowerPoint. One of the other things that you can do is in a dealer where the designers are doing the designing and they're handing it off to a project manager or maybe a salesperson to actually do the finishes and options and finish out the project, you can take that, you can take a visual, sorry, let me say this differently. You can outfit your salesperson or project person with VI as well, and that gives them the ability to visually specify, just like I've done for you today. So let's say I'm working on a project. As a designer, I do the space planning and the drawing. I hand it off to someone else. I give them the visual.sp4 file from the drawing. If they have worksheet and VI, then they can visualize that project just as well. That is can be a little confusing, but the key is everything revolves around the worksheet that comes out of the drawing. So that's a way that you can, you know, when you see VI, and I've heard people say with VI they don't have time to incorporate it into their process. Maybe there's other ways or other people that can help you with that. And I personally don't refer to visual impression as a rendering tool. I refer to it as a visualization tool, and it's because of these other capabilities that I do that. The other thing that was brought to me that I hadn't thought of is if you're new to visual impression and you have some drawings that maybe you created before you had visual impression, as long as those projects end in .visual.sp4, that means that they have been created from a drawing and that you could visualize those. So let's say you're a designer and you've purchased visual impression and you're new to it. You can open old projects on that and use it just like you would a new project that you created from scratch. So I know from Ashley has told me that that's not real visible to people, so I want to make sure that we mention that today. Okay, so visual impression lets you work the way you want to, and if I want you to take anything away from this session is you know, to be creative and to kind of think through how things can work, because it doesn't have to be just a rendering tool for you. It has a whole lot of other capabilities when it's used with the other core software. And with that, we can open it up to questions, or I can open it up to the panel anyway to see if there's any questions you'd like me to address.
1 second, Cindy, we're catching up because a lot of questions came in. When you did ask that question earlier to the group, if this is the way that you work, there were a lot of yeses and a lot of excitement. So we're definitely hitting on some really common workflows. It looks like there may be some questions about...
That's good. I'm glad to know that people have found that path, because we worked pretty hard when we were putting it together to make sure that everything, what you were doing in one place, transferred to another.
There's quite a few questions about architecture in visual impression and finishes in visual impression. Although we may not be able to show and answer all of those types of things today, we do have quite a few, or I should say we've got 2 visual impression classes that you can attend if you have never taken a VI class before. There's a basic class and an advanced class with Ashley. We also have a few additional recordings. So after this session, this will all be posted on our community, on our website. So kind of look for that with any answers and links to training and things if there's some basic things that you hadn't seen yet.
While they're looking at questions, I just wanted to remind everybody we do have a forum that's available. The forum is really for you to share ideas and thoughts with us and with your peers. If you go to our website and go to forums, you'll have to register if you haven't already and log in. Our forum is called the Cube. Basically everything to do with planning and furniture for offices and business spaces. And you'll see important announcements from us there, as well as most of us are checking this on a daily basis, so if you want to just discuss something or ask a question or whatever, a lot of those things are there, and we're hoping to get more information out there. The more information we can get, the more powerful it becomes and a bit better resource for all of you.
There's a general question too, just about software. I think there's a few users on here that either don't use CAP or Giza, or maybe they use one of them and just have generic questions about visual impression. Visual impression is a separate license, so if you guys have any questions about adding that to your current drawing license, you can contact our sales team, commercial.sales@2020spaces.com, for pricing on that. But it is an additional thing to get started with. Thanks for everybody for attending. We had a lot of excitement. A lot of people said some great reminders in there because it's so easy to kind of start working one way and forget that you might have a few other options or a faster way to do it. So thanks again for joining.